It started with blood. A lot of it. I was halfway through a 20-hour shift when they wheeled her in. Face pale. Breathing shallow. Chest soaked in crimson. Code blue. Room 3, someone screamed. I ran. I didn't know her name. I didn't care who she was. At that moment, she was just another dying woman, and I was the only thing standing between her and death. But there was something in her eyes. Even half-conscious, she didn't look scared. She looked angry. Like death was an inconvenience. We cut off her clothes. Ruptured spleen. Internal bleeding. BP crashing. I barked orders like a madman, fighting the clock. Her heart stopped twice. We brought her back both times. And when I was done, soaked in sweat and someone else's blood, I just sat there, staring at her. She was alive. Barely. And I had no idea what I just stepped into. The next morning, 2 men in suits walked into the ICU. They looked like FBI or worse. No ID. No names. Just a command. You didn't see anything. You don't talk about her. Ever. I laughed in their faces. She's my patient. You think I care who she is? They didn't laugh back. One of them slipped a black card into my pocket. No logo. No number. Just a name printed in silver. Catherine Lorne. The name meant nothing to me. Not then. 2 days later, I got pulled into the chief of surgery's office. Thought I was about to get fired. Instead, he handed me a phone. She wants to speak to you. I took the call. Her voice was ice. You saved my life, Dr. Keller. That makes you the only man I owe something to. Come to this address. Midnight. Click. That was it. No explanation. No choice. And that was the night everything changed. Midnight. I parked my old rust bucket of a car outside a gated estate that looked like it belonged to royalty or a Bond villain. It stretched across the hills of Bel Air, lights glowing like a crown against the night sky. A biometric scanner blinked as I approached the gate. Before I could touch it, the gate creaked open by itself. I stepped inside. The driveway was lined with black marble statues. Real marble. I could tell. The kind of place where money didn't whisper, it screamed. I kept walking. Past fountains. Past roses blooming at midnight. My sneakers crunched against polished gravel like they didn't belong. Because they didn't. The front door opened before I could knock. She stood there. In a black silk robe, bare feet, her blonde hair damp from a shower. A fresh scar peeked beneath her collarbone, a brutal reminder of how close she came to death. You came, she said. I'm a doctor. You said midnight. She smiled. Not warm. Not cold. Just deliberate. Catherine Lorne didn't walk. She glided. She led me through a corridor that looked like it belonged in a museum, glass walls, ancient artifacts, a Picasso on the ceiling. Then she turned. You know who I am now, she asked. Just your name. She raised an eyebrow. That's rare. I shrugged. I work 80 hours a week. I don't exactly keep up with Forbes. She laughed. Actually laughed. I like you, Dr. Keller. You're honest. You don't want anything from me. I want my shift tomorrow to be over before sunrise. She stared at me for a moment like she was deciding something big. Then she said, good. Because I'm going to change your life. I blinked. What? You saved mine, she said. Now I'm going to give you one worth living. I thought it was a joke. Until the helicopter landed in her backyard. Until I got inside and saw the manila folder with my name on it. Until I opened it and saw what was inside. Bank statements. Photos. Emails. She'd done a full sweep on me. She knew my debts, my ex-fiancé's name, even the fact that I hadn't taken a real vacation in 9 years. You're not in trouble, she said as I stared at the file. You're in a cage. Let me unlock it. Why? I whispered. Her eyes met mine. Because I don't forget the people who saved me. The chopper lifted off, slicing through the night sky like a blade. LA turned into a sea of lights beneath us. I sat across from her, that file still open in my lap, my heart thudding like a war drum. I don't get it, I said. You could have given me a check. Walked away. She sipped champagne like it was water. I don't do charity. I do investments. In me. I scoffed. Lady, I live in a studio apartment above a laundromat. I eat hospital cafeteria food 6 days a week. Catherine leaned forward. Her perfume hit me, something cold, sharp, expensive. That's exactly why, she said. You're the kind of man who runs toward blood. Not away from it. You didn't hesitate to fight for my life. Even when I flatlined. Twice. I swallowed. I remembered every second of that night. Every damn second. She continued. You're not corruptible. You're not afraid. That makes you rare. And dangerous. I'm a trauma surgeon, I muttered. Not a mercenary. Catherine smirked. Then why are you on my helicopter? She had a point. I looked at her again. Really looked. Catherine Lorne. Billionaire heiress. Tech tycoon. Half of Wall Street either feared her or owed her. Rumor was she once bought a U.S. senator just to shut him up. I didn't believe gossip. But after tonight, I was starting to. Here's the deal, she said. You keep being you. Saving lives. But now you do it with resources. Real ones. I frowned. What does that even mean? She pulled out a sleek black tablet, tapped a few things, then handed it to me. On the screen was a hospital. Not just a hospital. My hospital. My name on the building. My designs. My dream. You build it. You run it. No red tape. No boards. No politics. Just medicine, she said. You do what you were born to do. I stared at the screen, stunned. You're funding this? She nodded. Why? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Because I don't trust many people. But I trust the man who dragged me back from death. I should have said no. I should have walked away. Instead, I looked out the window as the chopper flew into the dark. And said okay. 3 months later, I was standing in the middle of a construction site in downtown LA. Dirt, concrete, steel bones of a building that didn't exist before Catherine Lorne snapped her fingers. She didn't just fund it, she bulldozed the system. Zoning laws? Gone. Permits? Fast-tracked. Supplies? Shipped from 4 countries. Every piece of red tape I'd fought my whole career just vanished. And there it was, the Keller Institute for Emergency Medicine. My name in chrome letters 20 feet high. The first time I saw it, I almost threw up. It wasn't pride. It was pressure. This wasn't just some vanity project. It was a test. Catherine had eyes everywhere, lawyers, consultants, even a former CIA analyst on payroll. I once mentioned needing a better ventilator model, and 2 days later, 20 of them were delivered from Sweden. But the help came with shadows. One night, I found a file left on my desk. No note. No explanation. Inside? Photos. A man with a gun. Another with a briefcase full of cash. And a sticky note. He'll try to sue you. Don't settle. He's laundering. See. I froze. This wasn't just about saving lives anymore. It was about power, leverage, and secrets. I called her. What the hell is this? I demanded. Her voice was calm. That's protection. You're playing in my world now, Keller. You don't get to pretend this is just medicine. I didn't sign up for this crap. You signed up when you said okay in my helicopter, she said flatly. I told you I'd change your life. Did you think that came without a cost? I didn't respond. Because I already knew the truth. I had stepped out of the hospital and into her game. And I didn't know the rules. That night, I drank for the first time in 2 years. And I watched the shadows move outside my new office window. Catherine Lorne gave me everything I ever dreamed of. But the longer I stood in that dream, the more it felt like a trap. I was in surgery when it happened. A woman coded on the table. Massive head trauma. We worked for over an hour, blood everywhere, broken ribs from CPR, adrenaline coursing through every artery in my body. We saved her. As they wheeled her out, one of the nurses handed me a note. A courier dropped this off. Said it was urgent. My name was scribbled on the envelope. Inside, one word. Run. No signature. No explanation. Just that single, sharp command. I didn't run. I went straight to Catherine. She was in her glass-walled office on the top floor of the Institute, barefoot, sipping espresso like nothing in the world could touch her. I got a note, I said, slamming it on her desk. Someone wants me out. She didn't even flinch. I know. You know. She stood slowly, walked to the window, arms crossed. You're being watched. Not by me. Not anymore. By people who don't like me. Or what I'm doing. You being attached to me makes you a target. I stared at her. What the hell did you do, Catherine? She turned. For the first time, her face wasn't just cold, it was scared. Something I can't undo. She poured 2 glasses of bourbon, handed me one. 8 years ago, she began, I funded a clinical trial. Off the books. Experimental stem cell recovery for spinal trauma. We were close. Too close. A pharmaceutical giant offered to buy us out. I said no. What happened? She downed the drink in one swallow. A week later, my lead researcher was found dead. Ruled an overdose. It wasn't. I felt my gut twist. You think they're still after you? I know they are, she whispered. But now they're coming through you. Because I'm not so easy to kill anymore. That silence between us? It felt like a bomb. You should have told me, I said. She stepped closer. Would you have stayed if I had? I didn't answer. She knew the answer anyway. Get protection, she said. You're not in a hospital anymore. You're in a war zone wearing a white coat. I left her office shaking. The building I once dreamed of was now a battlefield, and I was standing in the center, scalpel in hand, with no clue who the hell was coming next. It happened at 4:12 a.m. I was on call, catching a few minutes of sleep in my office when the explosion rocked the east wing. The windows cracked. Alarms screamed. My body hit the floor before my brain caught up. Fire. Smoke. People running, shouting. I bolted down the hallway barefoot in scrubs, dodging debris. Nurses were pulling patients out of rooms. Sirens already wailing in the distance. One of the ORs was gone. Just gone. The wall blown open like a war zone. Emergency sprinklers sprayed water everywhere. Blood mixed with ash on the floor. And in the middle of it all, taped to a charred gurney, a piece of paper. Next time it's you. My hands shook as I read it. This wasn't a threat. This was a promise. 23 people were injured. One, an intern, died from shrapnel to the neck. He was 27. I trained him myself. I called Catherine. She answered on the first ring. I know. What do you mean, you know? I roared. A kid is dead. My OR is a crater. And someone just declared war. Her voice cracked. They're not after you, Keller. They're sending me a message. Well, congratulations. I spat. They got it across. I heard her breathing. Fast. Panicked. The first time I'd heard fear in her. I never wanted you pulled in this deep, she said quietly. Too late. That night, FBI swarmed the place. Cameras. News trucks. My name all over CNN. I was listed as the founder and lead trauma director. They called me a hero for pulling patients from the fire. But I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a damn pawn. My staff was terrified. Some quit on the spot. Others demanded security. I gave it to them, out of my own pocket. Meanwhile, Catherine vanished. No texts, no calls. Her office was empty for 2 weeks. And in that silence, something inside me snapped. She brought this into my life. She saved me from poverty, but dropped me into hell. I stood in the ruins of my dream, and I asked myself, was saving her life the worst decision I ever made? And worse, if I had the chance again, would I let her die? 2 weeks passed. No Catherine. No answers. Just silence. Then he showed up. Late one night, after the cleanup crew left, I was alone in my office, reviewing intake logs, trying to pretend the hospital hadn't been bombed 2 weeks earlier. He knocked once, then stepped inside like he owned the place. Tall, sharp suit, shaved head, a scar slicing through his cheekbone, and a silver watch that gleamed every time he moved his wrist. You must be Dr. Keller, he said, voice smooth like poison. Who the hell are you? He smiled. A friend of someone you should have never crossed. He sat down across from me without permission, leaned in like he was about to tell a secret. I admire what you've built here. Really. Tragic what happened to your intern. I froze. You son of a... He raised a hand. No threats. I'm not here to hurt you. Yet. I clenched my fists. He dropped a folder on my desk. Inside, blueprints. My blueprints. Of the Keller Institute. Highlighted in red, weak points. Exits. Supply chains. Even staff schedules. It was a map for war. Where did you get this? I told you, he said. You're playing in the wrong league. I stared at him, hate boiling in my chest. You with Pharmatech? He chuckled. Call us stakeholders. Then he stood, straightened his jacket, and walked to the door. One hand on the knob, he looked back. She brought you into this, Dr. Keller. She bought you, and now she's left you to drown. And then softly, cut ties, or we burn this place to ash. Next time you won't get a warning. He left. Couldn't breathe. I called every number I had for Catherine. Disconnected. Her house? Empty. Her private clinic? Abandoned. Gone. Like she never existed. And I sat there, alone, surrounded by silent machines and echoes of sirens. They knew everything about me. And the woman who'd promised to protect me? She vanished. I was done waiting. If she wouldn't come back to explain what the hell was going on, I'd find her myself, even if it killed me. I took a week off from the hospital. First time in years. Told the board I was burned out. That wasn't a lie. What I didn't tell them was that I was hunting Catherine Lorne. I started with her last known address, Bel Air Mansion, the one where all this insanity began. I expected armed guards, cameras, maybe a new owner. What I found? Nothing. The estate was gutted. Curtains blowing through broken windows. Champagne bottles still on the counter. Furniture gone. Like she'd run in the middle of the night. But there were clues. Upstairs, in her walk-in closet, hidden behind a false panel, I found a safe. The code? Her blood pressure from the night I saved her. 86 of 42. Inside, a USB drive. Labeled "If I Die." I plugged it into my laptop at a cheap motel outside Malibu. Encrypted. Took me 3 hours and a friend from med school who owed me a favor to crack it. And what I found? Emails. Photos. Surveillance videos. Catherine had been tracking Pharmatech for years. Bribery. Illegal testing in third-world countries. Deaths. Cover-ups. And names. Lots of names. One stuck out, Anthony Rice. Chairman of Pharmatech. Billionaire. Politician puppet master. And the man who probably sent the guy with the silver watch to threaten me. But here's the thing. Catherine hadn't just tracked him. She'd infiltrated him. Photos showed her at parties. Beside Rice. Smiling. Drinking. Laughing. She'd been pretending to be his ally for years. Then I found a video. Grainy but clear. Catherine in a hotel room. Rice standing over her, shouting, "You think you can blackmail me? You think you're untouchable?" She didn't flinch. "I don't need to be untouchable, Anthony. I just need to be louder than you." The video ended with him slamming her into a wall. I sat there trembling. She hadn't vanished. She was hiding. Or dead. I didn't know which. But I knew one thing for sure. She didn't drag me into this war. She shielded me from it. Until now. And if Anthony Rice wanted a war? He just got one. Because I wasn't going to hide anymore. I was going after him. Rice owned a skyscraper downtown. Rice Global. 57 floors of glass, steel, and corruption. His name was on the top in chrome letters, gleaming like a middle finger to the city. I walked into that building with a stolen security badge and fire in my chest. I wasn't thinking straight. Didn't care. I had nothing left to lose. I made it to floor 49 before the badge failed. Guards swarmed. Suits. Guns. Cold stares. They didn't beat me. They didn't shout. They just escorted me to a private elevator. No buttons. No choice. I was taken to the top. The door opened into silence. Rice was standing at the far end of the room facing a panoramic view of the city. Calm. Collected. Inhuman. "I was wondering when you'd come," he said, sipping something dark from a crystal glass. "You sent someone to threaten me," I growled. "You bombed my hospital. You killed an innocent intern." He turned, slow and theatrical. "Your intern wasn't innocent. He was feeding information to Catherine." I froze. "That's a lie." "Check his bank records," he said. $30,000 wired from an offshore account registered under one of her shells. Look familiar. I didn't want to believe it. But I did. Because Catherine was always 5 moves ahead. Even with me. Rice stepped closer. "You're a talented man, Dr. Keller. But talent without loyalty is dangerous. What do you want from me?" He set down his glass, leaned in, and whispered. "Walk away. And if I don't?" He smiled. "Then I bury you. Not with bullets. Not with bombs. With whispers. A malpractice suit here. A patient death there. Soon, your name means nothing." I stared at him. Heart pounding. "You're not a man. You're a plague." His smile faded. "And you're a ghost already. You just haven't realized it." He turned away. Dismissed me like I was dust on his sleeve. And they let me go. No violence. No handcuffs. Because he knew. Sometimes fear lasts longer than pain. But he made a mistake. He let me walk. And that meant I still had breath. Still had fight. Still had her. And I wasn't letting this end in silence. If Rice wanted to play God, then I'd become his reckoning. The address was buried in one of the encrypted files on Catherine's USB drive. Labeled only in case of exile. It led me to the Mojave. 3 hours from LA, middle of nowhere. Just rocks, wind, and sand. The road disappeared after the last mile. I ditched the car and hiked. Dust in my mouth. Sun bleeding into my eyes. And then, a glint of metal. Half-buried bunker. Unmarked. Camouflaged. The kind of place you'd never find unless you were meant to. I knocked. No answer. I pounded. Still nothing. Then I whispered through the rusted slit of the steel door. 86/42. Silence. A click. The door creaked open. And there she was. Catherine. Alive. Hair longer. Eyes darker. Gone like she hadn't slept in weeks. She didn't cry. She didn't hug me. She just said, "You shouldn't have come." I stepped inside anyway. The bunker was filled with maps, surveillance monitors, voice recorders, and photos, dozens of them. All with the same face, Rice. "You've been watching him this whole time?" I asked. She nodded. "He's unraveling. He thinks you're mine. Which I guess you are now." I ignored the sting in her voice. "You lied to me," I said. "The intern. The fake name. The private clinic. All of it." Catherine stared at the monitors. "I had to. You were my last card. And I couldn't play you too soon." I felt rage boil in my chest. "You used me." "No," she whispered. "I protected you. Until I couldn't anymore." She turned to face me then. And I saw something I never expected. Regret. Real, raw, gut-wrenching regret. "I never meant for the hospital to get hit," she said. "Or for the kid to die. That wasn't part of the plan." "There was a plan?" I snapped. "There still is," she said. She pulled a tablet from the desk and handed it to me. Live footage. A hidden camera. Inside Rice's office. And on his desk. A shipment manifest. Dozens of crates. Labeled Mirage 21. Destination, Sierra Leone. "What is that?" She looked me dead in the eye. "Human trials. On villagers. With an unapproved drug. It kills 30% on first dose." I felt sick. "He's going to test it on innocent people. Off the grid." She nodded. "Unless we stop him." Silence sat between us like a loaded gun. And then she said the one thing I never thought I'd hear from her lips. "I need your help, Keller." And just like that, I was back in her war. We stayed underground for 3 days. Planning. Scheming. Becoming something we swore we'd never be. Doctors playing soldiers. I wasn't trained for this. But neither was she, and somehow that made it easier. We weren't warriors. Just two broken people trying to kill a monster before he killed again. Catherine laid it out. Mirage 21 was a neuroimmune suppressant disguised as a vaccine. Rice planned to test it on a village with no media, no phones, no oversight. If it worked, he'd patent it. If it didn't, he'd bury the bodies. We had one shot to stop the shipment. It was already on a private airstrip. Cargo plane. Midnight departure. Full security escort. And that's when Catherine said it. "We're going to burn it." I froze. "You mean, destroy the shipment?" She nodded. "I've already rerouted the fuel lines. We just need someone inside to trigger it." "That's arson," I said. "That's terrorism. That's justice." I slammed my fist on the table. "We're not killers, Catherine." She stepped closer. "He is." And suddenly the weight of it all hit me. The hospital. The intern. The explosion. The lives already lost in Rice's pursuit of profit. If we did nothing, more would die. But if we did this, there was no going back. "I'll do it," I said quietly. Her eyes widened. "I'll get on that plane," I continued. "Trigger the fuel. Walk off before it goes up. No one gets hurt." She hesitated. "You won't have much time." "I don't need much." That night, she handed me a security badge, fake credentials, and a black bag. Inside, a timer. Pre-wired. Military grade. I looked at it like it might explode in my hands right then. And that's when Catherine did something I never expected. She kissed me. Not out of love. Not out of passion. Out of desperation. "Come back," she whispered. "Please." I didn't promise anything. Because I wasn't sure I would. And if I didn't, at least someone would finally feel the fire I'd been living in for months. I slipped onto the airstrip disguised as a logistics tech. Hat low. Badge clipped. Pulse hammering like a war drum in my ears. The plane sat there like a beast, mouth open, swallowing pallets of sealed crates. Mirage 21. One after another. The nightmare boxed, labeled, and ready for slaughter. Midnight ticked closer. I moved fast. Focused. Like I was back in the OR, only this time the patient was the world, and failure meant a death count I couldn't even begin to measure. I crawled beneath the fuselage. Found the fuel line. Attached the device. Set the timer. For minutes. That's all I needed. I started to move quiet, invisible. Then I heard a voice. "You shouldn't be here." I turned. It was him. Silver watch. His face twisted with surprise. Then amusement. "Well damn," he said. "You've got guts, Doc." He reached for his side. Gun. I tackled him before he could draw. We hit the tarmac hard, fists, elbows, knees. Dirty, desperate. Nothing clean about it. He landed a punch that cracked my jaw. I tasted blood. But I didn't stop. Because behind us, the timer ticked on. He slammed me into the side of the plane. You think this will stop anything? He hissed. You're nothing. I'm enough, I growled and drove the edge of my badge into his eye. He screamed. Dropped. I ran. 2 minutes. Security scrambled over the radio. Sirens. Chaos. I jumped the fence, ribs screaming, legs burning. And then, boom. The blast split the sky. Fire lit up the desert like the wrath of God. The plane vanished in a ball of hell. And I collapsed behind a dune, coughing, shaking, alive. Hours later, I woke up in the safe house. Catherine was there. Eyes wide. Hands trembling as she checked my bruises, my cuts. You did it, she whispered. We did it, I rasped. She smiled, just barely. But in her eyes, I saw something else. Fear. Rice won't let this go, she said. I'm counting on it. We burned his secret. But in doing so, we painted a target on our backs bigger than ever. The question now wasn't whether we could survive. It was whether we were willing to become the kind of people who deserved to. News broke the next morning. Private pharmatech jet destroyed in explosion, no casualties reported. Cargo lost. They called it a mechanical failure. But Rice knew better. And within hours, he retaliated. My personal bank accounts? Frozen. My license to practice medicine? Suspended pending investigation. IRS agents showed up at the hospital with audit warrants. Staff quit in droves, terrified of federal heat. Everything I'd built, the institute, the dream, the team I bled for gone in 3 days. And me? I was a wanted man. An anonymous leak had exposed me as a suspect in the explosion. They had nothing solid. But in the court of public opinion, guilt doesn't need proof. Just a whisper. Catherine and I watched the chaos from a tablet in the safe house. They're faster than I thought, I muttered, jaw clenched. They always are, she said. But it wasn't just her usual cold calm. She looked sick. Pale. Sweating. You okay? She waved me off. Just a bug. But I knew that look. I'd seen it 1,000 times on 1,000 patients. She collapsed the next morning. I caught her before she hit the floor. Fever. Shallow breath. Blood pressure crashing. It wasn't a bug. It was Mirage 21. She'd been poisoned. I rigged in 4 from our limited supplies. Monitored her vitals. Did everything I could. But her liver was shutting down. You've got 4, maybe 5 days, I told her. She laughed through cracked lips. That's 2 more than I need. Don't do this, I begged. Let me take you to a hospital. They'll find me. Then let me go public. Blow the whole thing open. She gripped my hand. Not yet. Not until we finish it. I stared at her, feeling the rage boil beneath the grief. They tried to take you from me once, I whispered. I saved you. She smiled faintly. And you're going to save me again. But how? Her eyes, glassy, half-lidded, locked onto mine. You need to get to the original sample. There's an antidote. We built it in case of toxicity. Rice has it. It's locked in his private lab. I blinked. You want me to break into his building? She coughed, blood on her lips. If anyone can, Keller, it's you. I didn't hesitate. I stood. I packed. And I swore to God. If I had to walk through fire, kill a dozen men, and burn Rice's empire to the ground, I was going to bring her back. One last time. Rice's lab was buried 6 stories underground beneath Rice Global HQ, off the books. No cameras. No staff listed. Just biometric locks and a 2-man clearance protocol. I had one chance. One shot. And it had to be perfect. I spent 48 hours gathering what I needed: blueprints, forged ID cards, a voice sample of Rice pulled from a podcast interview, and an eyeball scanner spoof built by a paranoid hacker who owed Catherine a favor from years ago. The night I went in, I dressed like them. Suit. Briefcase. Cold eyes. I walked past 3 checkpoints. Nobody questioned me. Floor 56. I took the executive elevator down. No button for -6. Just a key. But I had something better, the override code buried in Catherine's USB. I input it. The elevator shuddered. Then it dropped. The hallway was dead silent. Concrete walls. A hum in the air like a sleeping beast. At the far end, a single steel door. I held my breath. Voice prompt, identify. I played the clip, this is Anthony Rice. Authorize access. It buzzed. Scanned my face. Green light. Click. The door opened. What I saw inside turned my blood cold. Humans. 5 of them. Strapped to gurneys. Wires in their skulls. Tubes in their arms. Pupils blown wide from whatever was coursing through them. Some still twitched. Others didn't. I gagged. This wasn't a lab. It was a chamber of nightmares. and in the center, locked in a cryovault, was the antidote. Label, Varexin. Lot number 0110CL. Antidote, Mirage 21 Reversal Protocol, Human Trial, Restricted. I broke the case. Alarm screamed. I grabbed 3 vials, stuffed them into my coat, and ran. Security flooded the lower level. Voices shouted. Boots slammed. I hit the stairs. Took them 2 at a time. My lungs on fire. My legs numb. My heart beating like a goddamn war drum. By the time I burst out of the side exit, I was soaked in sweat and sirens. But I had it. The cure. Catherine's last chance. I didn't sleep. I didn't stop. I drove like a demon through the night, tires howling, wind ripping through the windows, her name in my head with every mile. By dawn, I was back at the safe house. She was still breathing. Barely. I plunged the vial into her 4-line. And I waited. 1 hour. 2. 3. Then, she opened her eyes. Clear. Focused. Alive. Hey, she whispered. I broke. Tears. Ugly. Raw. You came back, she said. I held her hand like it was the last rope keeping me from the edge. I always will. Catherine was alive. But not safe. The antidote bought us time, but not peace. Rice knew I'd been in his lab. His security team found the breach. 3 dead guards. Wiped footage. And 1 missing antidote. He didn't go to the cops. He sent a message. I found it nailed to the bunker's front door. A severed finger. Wrapped in a silk handkerchief. Embroidered with a name. Dr. Marla Cho. My former colleague. One of the few who stood by me when the hospital crumbled. We hadn't spoken in weeks. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I knew what that meant. I stared at the finger. And I broke. This ends tonight, I told Catherine. She sat up, pale but stronger. Not yet. We're not ready. I don't care. He's murdering innocent people now. She stood as shaky, determined. You walk into this without a plan, he'll kill you and pin it on a janitor. I'd rather die fighting than keep hiding, I snapped. She stepped forward, eyes like steel. Then let's make it worth it. That night, we recorded everything. The footage from the lab. The vials. The files from her drive. Even our conversations. 2 versions, one for the press. One for the courts. Then we launched it. Full dump. Untraceable. Posted from 12-burner laptops across the city. By morning, Rice's name was everywhere. Breaking, Pharmatech CEO linked to illegal human testing. FBI opened criminal investigation into Anthony Rice. Whistleblower video sparks outrage, protests. But we knew that wouldn't stop him. And we were right. The door to the bunker blew open at 3:03 a.m. He didn't send goons. He came himself. Anthony Rice. In a pressed navy suit. No tie. Calm. Clean. Behind him 4 men. Guns. Masks. Silent. Catherine stood between them and me. You can kill me, she said, voice like iron. But everything is out there now. He tilted his head. Smiled. I'm not here to kill you. He turned to me. I'm here for him. I stepped forward. You want me? Fine. But let her go. Rice shook his head. You don't get it, Keller. You broke the rules. You brought emotion into a business transaction. Then he pulled a gun from his jacket. Pointed it at her. I moved. So did she. Bang. The sound shattered the world. Catherine collapsed. I caught her. Blood soaked my shirt. Her mouth moved but no sound came out. Then, she smiled. Reached into her pocket. Pressed a button on a small black remote. And whispered. Checkmate. The explosion tore through the night like thunder from hell. Rice didn't see it coming. None of them did. Catherine's remote triggered a series of charges we'd planted days earlier, just in case. The outer perimeter, the backup generator, the fuel tanks. All of it lit up like fireworks in a war zone. I dove over Catherine's body as the heat roared behind us. Debris slammed into the walls. Metal screamed. One of Rice's men flew backward, limp, burning. In the chaos, Rice disappeared. I don't know how he survived it. But he did. I saw him through the smoke, staggering to a black SUV, half his face scorched, suit shredded. He locked eyes with me one last time before the car peeled into the desert. Coward. I turned back to her. Catherine was slipping. Pulse faint. Blood pooling fast. No. No, stay with me, I whispered, pressing hard into the wound. You don't get to leave now. Not after all this. She looked up at me, eyes glassy, skin pale. Did we win? She asked. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. We checkmated the devil. Her lips curled into a smile. Then it was worth it. Her hand dropped. She went still. I screamed. I screamed like the world was ending. Because, for me, in that moment, it was. They found me hours later. Ambulance. FBI. News vans. I didn't talk. Not until the agents showed me the headlines. Rice in hiding. Warrant issued. Doctor's evidence exposes billion-dollar cover-up. Catherine Lorne identified as key whistleblower in Pharmatech case. It worked. Her death wasn't in vain. They asked if I wanted to testify. I said yes. Not just for her. For the intern. For Marla. For every person Rice hurt and buried and bought. I stood in front of a grand jury a month later, shaky but standing. And I told them everything. Rice was caught in Argentina. He fought extradition. Lost. He's serving life in a federal prison with no chance of parole. No silver watch. No bodyguards. Just concrete and silence. Catherine's name is etched into the cornerstone of the Keller Institute. We rebuilt it better, stronger, cleaner. Every time I walk through those doors, I see her. Not the billionaire. Not the fugitive. The woman who gave me my life. And I remember the last words she ever said to me. Then it was worth it. Yes, Catherine. It was. 6 months passed. Rice rotted in a maximum security cell. His empire collapsed. Pharmatech stock tanked. Lawsuits stacked up like bodies. But for me, peace didn't come. Because she was gone. And every corridor in my hospital whispered her name. The staff called it a miracle how fast we rebuilt. How donations flooded in. How whistleblower protection turned me into a media darling. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know I walked those halls every day wondering if I'd done the right thing. Or just survived by losing the best thing I ever had. I kept her office intact. Never locked. Never touched. Sometimes I'd sit in her chair and imagine her voice again, sharp and cold and brilliant. But grief has claws. It doesn't fade, it settles. One night I got a letter. No return address. No stamp. Inside, a photo. Catherine. Standing on a dock somewhere tropical. Sun on her face. Hair tied back. Alive. The date on the back? 2 weeks ago. I couldn't breathe. I ran fingerprint analysis. Nothing. Facial recognition? No match. Could have been doctored. Could have been fake. But it wasn't. I knew her eyes. I knew her smirk. She faked her death. She escaped. And the part of me that shattered when she died? It lit back up like a fire catching oxygen. There was no note. No explanation. Just a second photo in the envelope. A chessboard. Queen standing. King fallen. Checkmate. I didn't tell the press. Didn't tell the FBI. I just smiled for the first time in months. Because somewhere out there, she was still playing the game. Still fighting her way through the shadows. And maybe, just maybe, she wanted me to follow. I couldn't ignore it. Not the photo. Not the message. Not her. She wanted me to see it. She needed me to. And that meant one thing: Catherine Lorne wasn't done yet. I started digging. Quietly. No FBI. No press. Just me and the ghost of the woman I died for once already. First lead? A small clinic in Lisbon suddenly funded by an anonymous donor. State of the art? Focused on trauma medicine and experimental neuroregeneration. Sounded like her. Second lead? A cargo manifest from a private island near the Seychelles. Medical supplies. Surgical tools. High-level clearance. Destination redacted. Then came the third. A call. Blocked number. One word on the line. Bishop. Click. Bishop. Her codename in the encrypted files. I'd only seen it once, attached to a Black Ops contract in Eastern Europe. Buried. Sealed. Now it was ringing in my ears. I packed a bag. Left the hospital in the middle of the night. No goodbye note. Because this wasn't the end of the story. This was the next chapter. I landed in Lisbon. Followed the money. Followed the silence. And one night outside the clinic I saw her. Catherine. Wearing a hood. Eyes scanning like radar. No guards. No pretense. She looked older. Wiser. Stronger. And she was smiling. I knew you'd come, she said. You died, I whispered. I had to, she replied. Rice wasn't the only one watching. There were others. I needed to disappear to finish the real work. What work? She turned. Behind her, through the clinic glass, rooms full of patients. Soldiers. Refugees. Victims of the same pharmaceutical war she escaped from. I'm rebuilding, she said. But this time I'm doing it off-grid. No headlines. No skyscrapers. Just results. I stepped closer. I thought I lost you. She looked at me, really looked. You saved me twice, Keller. I figured it was time I saved myself. We stood there, surrounded by ocean wind and unfinished forgiveness. You coming in? She asked. Are you staying? I countered. She grinned. Only if you are. I didn't answer. I just followed her through the door. Because sometimes revenge isn't the end. It's the beginning of something that finally matters. And sometimes the person you save becomes the only person who ever truly saves you. Lisbon was only the start. A month later, we relocated again, this time to the island. No name. No coordinates listed on any map. Just a dot in the Indian Ocean where satellites couldn't see and governments didn't care. Catherine called it Sanctum. A place for the broken, the hunted, the forgotten. Our clinic expanded quickly. Trauma unit. Research wing. Underground lab for testing antidotes and rebuilding immune responses destroyed by pharmaceutical black ops. But it wasn't just science. It was war prep. Catherine knew better than to believe Rice was the last. Where there's one like him, she said, there are 10 more watching, waiting. So we trained. I learned tactical medicine. Surveillance. How to hide a hard drive inside a hollowed-out bone saw. She taught me how to fake a heartbeat on a biometric scanner and how to disappear without leaving a trace. We weren't doctors anymore. We were weapons. And the people we treated? Soldiers with no nation. Women burned by testing trials. Men who'd been paid to die for a drug that didn't work. One day, a man came in with half his face melted from chemical exposure. Catherine sat beside him for 8 hours. Didn't speak. Didn't move. When I asked her why, she said, because he reminds me of who I used to be. And I realized something. She wasn't healing just others. She was healing herself. We never said, I love you. Not once. We didn't have to. It was there in the way she looked at me across the surgical table. In the way she whispered sleep when I tossed and turned. In the way her hand brushed mine at midnight when the generators shut down and the silence got too loud. But paradise is temporary. One night, a boat washed ashore. Empty. Except for a message in a bottle. A chess piece inside. A white bishop. And a slip of paper. You think you've won. But we changed the game. No name. No signature. Just a challenge. Catherine stared at it for a long time. Then, without looking at me, she said, it's starting again. And I knew. This wasn't our ending. This was a new war. We buried the bottle beneath the banyan tree at the edge of the island. Not out of fear, but out of respect. A signal. A message. We heard you. We're not running. Catherine didn't sleep for 3 days after it arrived. She mapped every possible sender. Cross-referenced every black market lab still in operation. By the end of the week, she had a list. 7 names. 7 potential successors to Rice. Each one worse than the last. No boards. No PR teams. Just unregulated shadows playing God with pills and data. She called them the architects. And she wanted to bring them all down. This island isn't a sanctuary, she told me. It's a launching pad. I stared at her. You want to start a war against an entire global system? She met my eyes. I want to finish one. So we made a pact. No allies we couldn't trust. No borders. No mercy. We would strike first. Expose. Dismantle. Destroy. I thought we'd build a quiet life after all the fire. But that's not who we were anymore. She wasn't just a billionaire survivor. I wasn't just a doctor. We were weapons sharpened by loss. And somewhere deep inside, we both knew. We couldn't go back. The war had burned too much out of us. But in each other, we found purpose. Not peace. Not calm. But clarity. And that was enough. The last night before we left the island for good, Catherine stood at the shore, staring into the black horizon. I came up behind her, wrapped my arms around her waist. Still worth it? I asked. She turned, kissed me once, slow, full of ghosts, then whispered, always. We disappeared again the next morning. No goodbyes, no trace, just silence, and the quiet hum of a storm building behind us. Because we weren't running from the darkness anymore. We were running into it, together. This isn't a love story. It's a war story, and it's just getting started.